Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops, you're on the air.
Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Silicone Steve Alley, Vladi Dottie, and we are talking the recap of WrestleMania 40. The Roman Empire comes to a close. A new era is started. And Cody effing Rhodes is your new WWE Undisputed Universal Champion in one of the most emotional and best finishes in WrestleMania history, if not the best. And we're here to talk to you about it. Vladi Dottie, mind kind of blown still after Sunday. And of course, what we got Monday night as well, we can get into. But what a weekend and what a finish to these two chapters between Roman's chapter, which is more like a novel for his world championship, 13 and 116 days. Yeah. And Cody finishing his story, finally able to give that world championship title, that universal title, to Mama Rhodes. And just all the legends that were there celebrating, and everything that moment provided was just one of the greatest feelings I've ever had watching wrestling for 40 years. It was amazing. But we're going to go from start to finish, but just on your just emotions at the end of WrestleMania 40. Were you feeling?
I'm feeling much the same. It was a really uplifting win. It was like one of those, it might go down as one of the greatest moments in WWE WrestleMania history. If you had to go and think of some right off the top of your head, Hogan going over Andre and the Slam especially, and then, what else?
Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah, of course. But maybe the streak ending, things of that nature, something like that magnitude. I'd say, when we look back in history, this Cody win will probably be more important than those things. This is, as they made it very clear, this is the beginning of a new era. And it was a new era without Vince, of course. And they made it known that this is it. Like, they put their cards on the table. There was no, hiding anything or tiptoeing around, really. And for Cody to experience and be the whole flashpoint and be the guy, Dusty's son, of all people, to go and pull the WWE out of the Dark Ages, having Paul Levesque go and steer the ship with Cody as the guy, being the man currently, it seems totally fitting. And it's honestly just, it's as good as it gets in professional wrestling when you consider everything. I mean, remember at one point Cody went and used a sledgehammer on something that was like a replica of Triple H's throne. There was this sort of, animosity between the two at one point, and they were able to get together, work through this, and then achieve this epic story in the history of professional wrestling. And I couldn't be more happy. You and I were fantasy booking how they might do the end. We were very close. The excitement of who's going to come out next, that sort of thing, and we all saw it coming a mile away, but it still didn't take away from it. And then when Cody finally did win, and that realization with the 3 count hit, and to me personally, there was a little bit something to see Charles Robinson being the guy doing it too. Mm-hmm. And to see Cody go over, win, and become finally that world champion, it's what we wanted last year. And for us to have to wait a little bit longer for him to go through more trials, tribulations, it was all that much more sweet. And it doesn't seem like, and it just seems like, how could I put this? He's probably the guy, the best guy and just being at the right place and having the exact talent that's needed, it's a perfect fit. And when we look back on this, Cody's going to be considered the hero. But for those that have been invested for as long as you and I have been, I will always look at Seth Rollins in a way different way from this point forward. Because it's almost because without him, this doesn't happen. He ultimately made the ultimate sacrifice this weekend.
Absolutely. And we'll get right into it. If you want to start with the main event, we can walk you through step by step. until we get to the particulars right there. But yeah, Seth. But I'd like to, if we can kind of do it from that perspective, we can take it from your Friday night main event or your night one main event, and then we can kind of get into that. But yeah, I mean, Seth.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure we kind
Yeah,
of.
no problem.
Unless you,
So
I
you
mean,
want
it
me to
doesn't matter. We can do it either way. I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, getting back to like if you want to start off and lead off with the how we led into from Saturday night into Sunday, which Saturday night is the caveat of bloodline rules if Rock and Roman win. And here Seth went and got involved in this match, offered his services, basically, knew that Cody needed him. And what were we all like, not hoping for by any means, but we were all sort of in the back of our mind, we're like, is Seth going to turn on this guy or something? Like, is this involved? And you're thinking about that Saturday night, and no matter what sort of happened, even Sunday night, that carried over for me even a little bit. But in that main event on Saturday night, really, we got a glimpse into the future with The Rock and Cody, especially. The Rock, I wouldn't say, blew the house down. However, I would say his wrestling in this style, just being a brawler, badass, like muscle man, it's good for, I would say, like, this is the best route with him, not overdoing things, just sort of, and honestly, if he has the muscle around him, this should all work like beautifully. Not that you and I are going to be way looking forward to some of these matches, like even what's being alluded to with Cody and Rock in the future. However, that match went as you and I suspected. Most importantly, Rock gets the pin on Cody. Seth Rollins gets banged up in the match, risking life and limb at this point.
Yeah, bad back and bad knee that he was selling both all match.
Yes.
Pretty much most of the match anyway.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Drew McIntyre is posting on his social media. He's chilling, relaxing in a hotel, saying, "I told you, Seth. This is exactly what I said was going to happen."
Yeah, and that tie into that storyline is just a work of art as well in itself. But getting back to that main event, yeah, like we have the circumstances where the Rock and Roman wins, and it sets it up for bloodline rules. Basically, Cody sitting in the ring, dejected. The one thing I was surprised at, but I get and I understand, they didn't further like look to go and kick the shit out of like Roman and I'm sorry, out of Seth and Cody some more. They got their dramatic shot, sort of left it as is, and then okay, let's leave it towards night two, basically.
Yeah, they've been beating the crap out of them though. They beat those two down, I think 3 different times over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it might have been too much, in terms of the booking.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of anticlimactic the way The Rock just dominated Cody after Rock using every tool in the tool shed as he was the final boss. If you count that, I'm going to fire you. He's telling the referee. And I was wondering, and hopefully it wasn't going to happen, that would have been the same thing, which it wasn't. There was no referee chicanery in this match, which I like. Usually you get you didn't need to do that. And Charles Robinson, to your point, fantastic. It was great that he was able to do that, knowing that he worked with Dusty going back over 30 years ago, working with his father. So with that, then you get into Cody and Seth both losing. And the way The Rock ended it, I knew it was anticlimactic. I think you even used that exact word, but it was needed to set the table. And Triple H actually said this in his press conference. The way it was booked is to set the table. And then you just saw the look in both Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes' eyes when we're going off air. They look completely dejected, like it is screwed. And here, Seth Rollins, to your point, this guy is Bruce Willis in Armageddon. Or he's the one that sacrifices everything. He sacrifices everything going in after that main event. Then we go into the next day with he and Drew McIntyre, which absolute banger of an opener. They probably overuse the finishers a little too much. I think I counted 7 finishers in this match, maybe 8.
Yeah. I did love how the match opened with a Claymore, though.
Yeah. And also, and you're building that again. Seth is already battling against a rested, red-hot Drew McIntyre, who already is a great worker, one of the best big man workers in the business. And they go out and have a good old-fashioned banger with Seth and continuing to sell everything. No bullshit. It was a straight-up fight. Drew McIntyre won, getting his first victory in 3 shots in a championship match against Seth Rollins. And Seth with tears in his eyes at the end of it. And by the way, what is Drew McIntyre? You're not focused on this match. You're not focused on the championship. And we said that. Seth said he's like number 6 on his priority list. Seth said that. So he knew McIntyre was going to win, but the way he did it and the respect that Rollins and McIntyre had at the end of that match, I went in Vladi, I didn't think we were going to, I thought we were done. And then because he had that great moment with his wife. Yep. Phenomenal moment. He got cheered. The Philly crowd was actually very much behind him.
He's a liked heel, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he was celebrated for winning. The way you get your heat back on him, you have him start screwing with a guy who's at least for the next several months is going to get cheered every time his name is mentioned, CM Punk. And who loses his focus? Drew McIntyre, because he was so obsessed with CM Punk, a la Seth Rollins was so obsessed with Roman and defeating the Bloodline. Irony. And Phil Brooks has a couple guns in it, even though that clothesline was weak AF. If we go back and look at it, guy still can't prove to me he can work in that ring yet, but it's okay. It still was a phenomenal moment. Punk looked good, like he could do it, though. Hits him with the clothesline, boots him, and then Vladi Dottie, you call it. You called it last week. You said, look for Damian Priest to cash in on McIntyre after Punk gets involved. And I said, bullshit. There is no way CM Punk's getting involved. God forbid he re-hurts himself. He re-injures himself. Unless he signs a waiver or something, they're not going to do that. And Vladi Dottie, as the sage and the brilliant soothsayer you are, sir, Punk was good enough to start a fight. And he causes McIntyre to go down. Hits him with the clothesline, and Damian Priest's music hits. Vladi Dottie, your emotions as Damian Priest heads to the ring. Are you smiling ear to ear at this point?
I was totally smirking, and I'm like, and part of the reason I'm smirking too is because Triple H, with this move, as you and I discussed last week, he's re-legitimizing that briefcase. He's giving it another great moment at WrestleMania, totally putting over Damian Priest. And giving him that WrestleMania moment himself while, McIntyre and CM Punk are there. Like, this is, going to be shared a la Seth, Brock, and Roman. And, just for Triple H to go do that, I thought it was the right move at that point when I felt it and sensed it. And I think it had to be done. Like, there's no other, when else would you do it? The night after WrestleMania, maybe. That's the only borderline, Monday Night Raw. However, it worked like a charm. It moves it to Damian Priest. He gets that taste. And
by the way, he's under contract opposed to Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre in a year.
Yeah. So they're definitely going to go and showcase him, and they already started doing that on Monday Night Raw as well, as that happened last night. And and also, Triple H is a friggin' genius because he went and gave McIntyre his WrestleMania moment in front of a live crowd. He makes good on that. And then, Damian Priest goes over, takes it off McIntyre. And as we mentioned earlier, there's this event in Glasgow, Scotland. If Drew McIntyre is alive and well in WWE and on that card that night, he is winning the world title. Put a mortgage payment on it. It's going to happen. And
his contract situation will probably be a major determining factor if he's still doing that.
Yeah, and you know what? If you think about it, listen, he's going to definitely make his money, but having that moment in his hometown, basically, that is leverage that WWE is giving him. Right? Hey, you can do this if you re-up, and you will have the title for a while. So it's great. Great sort of bargaining chip by Triple H once again.
I think if you have your druthers, you have Drew McIntyre keep that title until next year's WrestleMania. And And then Mr. CM Punk can come back and he can win the Royal Rumble and get his big main event against Drew McIntyre. But Punk, it was great to have Punk such a big part of this WrestleMania. And I'm critical of the guy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, you're 100% right. And even last week, you were 100% right. They needed to legitimize it, particularly because most people thought it should have been LA Knight. But Vince was still pulling the final trigger. It was in Puerto Rico, obviously. Damian Priest, very proud of his Puerto Rican heritage. And I want to compliment Puerto Ricans, but I don't want to sound racist. And so he's very proud.
But yeah, like even in terms of, take it from here, like even in terms of Damian Priest and being proud of his Puerto Rican heritage, he's also from the Bronx, local sort of guy. Tonight, as a matter of fact, I saw online, ESPN and everything, that here he is at Yankee Stadium, Yankees Marlins, and Damian Priest is there with the world title, and he's hanging out with and wearing a Juan Soto jersey. Hanging out with him, hanging out with Aaron Judge, Mike's with John Carlos Stanton. This guy's on top of the world. And think of that. Like, here's Juan Soto and Damian Priest together, like at Yankee Stadium. And for all that to come together, just imagine being that guy. He was, 15 years ago, a bouncer in like bars in Atlantic City and stuff.
Yeah, he was homeless. He said he was homeless a decade ago. During his, I covered his press conference as well at the end of the night. And I don't know if he's the one guy. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. Anyone that puts their body through everything that they do from a physical and working standpoint, he deserves it. Is he the best one out of everyone on their roster? I still question that. But hell, for them to kind of take the sour part where, there were a lot of moments. Why didn't you just pin him there? And now it kind of makes sense. He becomes only the second man since Seth Rollins to do it. And it totally allows Drew McIntyre and CM Punk to really, their feud went from a 9.5 to a 12 in one foul swoop. And the irony that CM Punk cost Drew McIntyre that big moment, the way Drew McIntyre cost him his moment, it's beautiful. And you can hope McIntyre stays. Now, he doesn't have a child. I think one thing that AEW, as long as Tony's still putting money into it, the one thing that he will always have an advantage of is if you have a kid and you have a child, you don't want to miss 0 to 10 those years, and even 0 to 12 until the kids start telling you to piss off, which pretty much starts happening at 12 and 13, where they want to do their own thing for a while, and you're not as big of a part of their life until they need you, obviously. And it's just we were all like that growing up. But when you get 0 to 10, those are the moments where a lot of parents don't want to miss. And that's something that Tony Khan will always have. McIntyre, opposed to Becky and Seth, he doesn't have a child right now. So I am of the opinion he's definitely going to re-sign with WWE, so that schedule thing isn't quite as big of a deal. Also, what Drew is doing right here, he's setting up for one of the great storylines in WWE history with just CM Punk. I mean, these guys have already shown that they can go 15 rounds on the mic. They've had the best. They've probably, out of any two people, have had the best mic battles than anyone. And you're talking about a time where The Rock and Cody Rhodes have been going at it one-on-one at times. And these two guys have been right at the top. Yeah. And now you have Damian Priest now can go solidify himself as a great world champion. Quick question before we move on into the main event. And if you have anything else to say, quick question though, Damian Priest, is he going to have a long title reign or will he be a transitional champion?
I think somewhat transitional. I think he loses in Glasgow.
There you go. And then, McIntyre can keep that until WrestleMania next year because he's the kind of guy that can go out. And I don't know if Priest can do this, but McIntyre could go out and have banger after banger after banger. Yeah. Where Priest, I think, is because look, he's only been in the business about half the time McIntyre, so that might be part of it because you want that title to always have a representative who can really go right. So, just like a lot of guys, they get the opportunity, they can't run with it, so they don't get another opportunity. You can talk about guys like Dolph Ziggler for whatever reason that never panned out, where he was never the guy. But Dean Ambrose always reminds me that when they gave him the world championship, he had a couple of main events where he stunk up the building. Like,
Yeah.
who can forget that super kick from Dolph Ziggler where he got kicked and then he just jumped over the guardrail? It was terrible. And it was a match where he kind of needed to show what was what with Dolph Ziggler because we know Dolph Ziggler can go. And so Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, kind of dropped the ball as a world champion. A couple other guys have done that too. I think The Miz did that. That's why he went over a decade before he got it. So I'm wondering on where Damian Priest will be in 5 years. Will he be one of the great champions and dominant guys, or is this going to be early shine and not much after that?
You know, I look at him almost the same way as like a Kevin Nash. Sort of has some charisma, and he's like a little bit Scott Hallish as well. And he's a big dude. He's got a good like baritone like voice, and pretty imposing as well. I could eventually see him being, with somebody, I don't know, a little bit of a heater, and it's like a legitimate. These two guys are badasses, and it's not gonna. And honestly, I have a lot of respect for Finn Balor, but it's not Finn Balor at this moment. Like maybe an AJ Styles or somebody else. Just throwing it out there. So.
Well, we'll see. It's amazing to see what had happened. So you picked that, Vladi, and again, one of the biggest moments in WrestleMania history right there. Only the second time it's getting cashed in. And so here you see another, as we go away, Seth crying his eyes out after he lost, saying, "You fucking deserve it, man," to Drew McIntyre. And Seth now, yes, his lack of focus on Drew McIntyre costs him his championship match. The way he was beaten over and over again by The Rock and Roman Reigns, all played in to Seth Rollins giving the already one of the biggest sacrifices you can do, losing your championship belt. Let's see if that's the only thing. And honestly, Vladi, I wasn't even sure we were going to see Seth Rollins the rest of the night. I really wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how they were going to book this. And then we go to the main event, which early, the crowd was so into this match.
Yeah.
That's what everyone was waiting for all weekend. This was the big thing. I don't know if there was ever been over since maybe Rock Austin has, and maybe if you want to say Rock Cena, I don't believe so, but I don't remember a main event that I was looking forward to so much. I kind of wanted the main event. I was waiting for the main event when Rhea and Becky were on. I wanted Cody and the Roman. And the main event starts, and a couple finishers, what have you. Good, solid match. Again, working the crowd beautifully. Roman is talking that shit like he always does. Cody is, kind of a vanilla baby face who eventually the crowd will turn on.
Yeah.
But the love and the want to see him win this match was there the entire time. Then, of course, just as you and I predicted, Vladi, Jimmy comes out, then Jay comes out. Yeah. Solo comes out, and then we both said Cena's going to come out.
Yep.
And at this point in time, now you're starting to feel like, okay, what's happening now? Obviously, we know what happens after that. As John Cena takes care of Solo, getting some redemption from when Solo took him out a couple months ago. The final boss comes down and meets one of his biggest rivals. Rock bottom, Cena's done. Rock's yelling, get out of the Rock's ring.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, okay, he takes the belt off, and then what do we hear? Seth freaking Rollins once again.
Yeah.
But this time, the Shield music hits just like it did in the Royal Rumble, Vladi. Just like it did. The one person, the one man that could ever get Roman to lose sight. And it looked like with a steel chair, Seth was going to come attack The Rock. No. Roman Reigns out of nowhere, Superman punch, but Reigns is still down. He's still out. And now The Rock is going to take it to Cody Rhodes like no one ever else has before again. And then who were we going to? I know we all wanted to hear that glass shatter. We all wanted to hear the glass shatter. And I think I text you, well, the next best thing happened. Lights go out. We hear a dong. Rock's looking around. Lights go out again.
And the gong got such a pop. I was like, oh, there we go. I didn't expect it. You didn't expect it.
No.
And bring out the dead man. Carry on.
I don't know why they didn't have Austin, but obviously Austin might have had a pre-commitment or couldn't do it. because there's no way you're picking the Undertaker over Austin, but the Undertaker pop he got, and the part of the match, because also he used his mystic shit where magically he disappeared and The Rock got pushed to the outside magically. Yeah. The Undertaker used his mystic scariness, spooky, choke slams The Rock, bringing you back. And the one thing you can say is The Undertaker has a great history with The Rock. I'm sure he's wrestled him on television alone dozens and dozens of times in his career. And then you go back, he still has a connection with Roman. Roman was only the second person to take The Undertaker out at WrestleMania. So The Undertaker still had that to go. So The Undertaker actually makes a ton of sense, even though we weren't expecting it. As The Rock goes to hit him with the belt, choke slam to hell, lights go out, and then 3 men left in the ring. And you can take over from here, but 3 men left in the ring. The most appropriate part of this story, the 3 men who built this storyline from the ground up. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Go ahead, Vladi.
Yeah, and it brings me back to the quote as to when Seth Rollins was looking to go and sell his services, if you will, to Cody. He said, when it comes to fighting the Bloodline, when it comes to fighting The Rock, when it comes to fighting Roman Reigns, there's only one man who is uniquely suited to be your shield. And basically, the Shield's music hits. And the genius of that, too, is the place is so large. There's so many people. Where is he coming from? Adds to the chaos. And, of course, there was those that were thinking, is Dean Ambrose coming back? Whatever the case might be. Of course, it's not. You and I knew that. And then all of a sudden, Seth shows up in the ring, fully in the Shield attire. And basically, Roman, with a chair in his hand, has the option to hit Cody or hit Seth. And what did he do? He went to go hurt the one that hurt him the most. And that was Seth. And Seth took the chair shot. That move totally cost Roman the title.
Cody and the chair shot was so reminiscent of the chair shot Seth to Roman almost a decade prior.
Yes.
Wow.
It was just, and that, this is long-term storytelling. That nobody else can even attempt, such as this crew and then Triple H. And it was just a thing of beauty. And the fact that Seth Rollins, as the character that we're seeing in this federation, and that he lost his title to McIntyre, mainly because he wasn't paying him any mind, because he had bigger fish to fry. It was like his title was a sacrificial lamb, really. Yeah. And then you have him being injured, banged up, and promising this to Cody, and he actually followed through. And the architect actually helped burn down the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and it was such a beautiful part, because we always said Seth should be part of this, because and how did he do it? He was the only man during the entire Roman run, the only man to get Roman to think outside of the control and the methodical, pragmatic, smart, and vicious crime boss that Roman was. The only guy to get him thinking outside of his comfort zone has been Seth Rollins. And that was the reason, that one last ditch effort for Seth Rollins to fuck with Roman's head with the Shield gear, same exact way. And again, for the second time, Roman loses a singles match because he lost his shit because of Seth freaking Rollins. And Seth Rollins loses his title. He loses the match, beaten and badly hurt, to where he probably will take some time off now, at least a couple weeks. And he loses literally everything to burn the Roman Empire to the ground. Burn it down, he did. And again, Cody's going to get the belt, and he's going to get the fanfare, and he's going to get the ball as the quarterback, so to speak. But the real hero in this, to your point, I think you said this earlier, the real hero in this is still Seth frickin' Rollins. He sacrificed everything to burn that son of a bitch Roman Reigns to the ground, including that last chair shot. Seth went out there knowing he was going to be Roman's target no matter what, and he will take it because that will help Cody win this match. And then after Roman does the stupid, idiotic move of attacking Seth Rollins. Cody has some time to prepare. Roman goes for a spear, kick to the head, and then this time he hits all three. I think he hit three before as well early in the match. It was maybe one too many three in a row, Cody, or he almost did anyway. So he finally hits all three of them in a row. All the bloodline has been taken care of. Charles Robinson counts 1, 2, 3. Downstate Kingdom is played. And one of the great celebrations, if not the greatest post-match celebration in WrestleMania history, including every top babyface you'll ever see, a la Bret the Hitman Hart's victory over Yokozuna in 2000 and at WrestleMania 10, which ironically was against a member of the Anoa'i dynasty. And just you saw all the top baby faces, and every one of them had something to do with Roman's story. And this ridiculous storyline, this ridiculous title run, which, depending on which data points you want to go to, either way, to have this kind of title run in this day and age, including during the Vince McMahon era, because Vince McMahon was booking him a majority of this run initially.
Yeah,
it's an incredible run, and what is, like you said, none of us stupid internet marks could have ever thought up something like this in terms of bringing Seth back. Maybe there's a couple people that would, but it just was such a beautiful detail, and I'm so glad that the three guys that helped build this brand over the last 2 years, and if you talk about Roman and Seth, over the decade that they've been there, it is so fitting and so perfect. And then all the emotion that was happening, the ring announcer, Samantha Irvin, couldn't even make the announcement because she was crying. Then you see, it just was a cathartic moment for all of us in the WWE universe as well, and professional wrestling fans. Roman's
Cole.
Fuck him. Sucks.
He lost it, man.
And it just was one of those great moments, such a happy moment. I went back and watched the end of that match about 5 times. How much I loved it. And it's something that I'm going to remember forever. And again, you and I have been watching professional wrestling 40 years in a row. I don't know what we're going to say in a year, but I don't remember ever being this happy about a WrestleMania finish off the top of my head. With the, even when Austin beat Shawn Michaels for his first championship, we all kind of knew it was coming, and Michaels only had the title for 6 months prior.
Yeah.
And we knew he was leaving. We kind of all figured Cody was winning, but we also kind of figured Cody was winning the year before. So until Charles Robinson's hands hit 3, it was like,
yeah.
But now we're switching gears, Vladi. Where do you let's talk Roman Reigns, unless you want to add something to the main event, or anything. It could be anything we talked about.
No, I mean, we really hit a lot of the bases there, the important ones for sure. And like you said, the word cathartic, that's what I sense too. I mentioned Michael Cole breaking up, his voice, Samantha Irvin as well. Just seeing the happiness and joy on some of the people that showed up in the ring there. I know Seth Rollins had tears in his eyes as like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were looking to tend to him a bit. The symbolism of what happened there, the transition of power from Roman to Cody, especially with it being very obvious that is now the Paul Levesque era, their souls are intertwined forever now at this point. And I think everybody felt that. And when you start reading some of the stats of how many people watched Peacock just for this moment, you see how big Cody's blowing up right now.
Yeah,
they're making him into a superstar, and honestly, it's very John Cena plus Hulk Hogan before we knew what Hulk Hogan was all about, really, and it has that wholesome, good vibe, and what's amazing is, especially with The Rock being involved, things got very adult and very violent with Cody, and he was able to persevere and not only take us out of the dark ages with Vince's time, but he's also just got one quick victory over the new boss And who doesn't hate, the underdog beating his boss, right? That story is as old as time. So,
Stone Cold and McMahon.
It's the most perfect example. And so yeah, I think we covered a lot of it, man, and it was great. As a fan, I loved it. I thought it's what was needed. It was what I was wanting and hoping for. So totally satisfied. And like you said, I can't remember another Mania that I was like, okay, it checked the boxes that needed to. And like you and I alluded to, there was quite a bit of filler throughout the night, especially night one. But the icing on the cake here with Cody winning it and having that moment, thing of beauty, work of art. God bless Seth. I mean, my God, man, just incredible moment in his career as well.
And that's the thing. And Seth is one of those guys that is the real unsung hero, and I absolutely have nothing but love and respect for Seth frickin' Rollins and honestly his character. It's still annoying when he does the stupid dancing and cackling though, but interesting.
And I think he's toned that down a little bit when he's serious.
Yeah,
I don't care if him playing for the song, okay, like doing that, but like the cackling especially. When he's serious and he has that and he's just talking from a real place, man, it's really good. It's hard to like not be involved in that moment of television. So my opinion's really high on him as long as he doesn't cackle as well.
Yeah, so Seth Rollins and also one more symbolism as Seth was banged up, being helped back to the dressing room, extended his hand, shaking. He was that was the beautiful part. He wasn't in there celebrating because physically he couldn't do it. He couldn't help celebrate like everybody else because he physically could not do it because of what he put himself through. But he shakes Cody's hand, and that's the last time you see Seth Rollins. And Cody realizing he couldn't have done it without Seth Rollins. Couldn't have done it with everyone, but Seth was the guy. Before we go into what we think we're going to happen next, all that, you want to just touch up and kind of go through some other special moments of WrestleMania, real quick fire type situation, and we can kind of talk about that, and then we'll move on to what Roman Reigns' reign might have meant and what it could have been, and we'll also get into where we think we're all going from here between Cody, between The Rock, and Roman Reigns. And one more thing too, Vladi, we got a lot to get to still on the show. We got to talk about the EVPs later tonight. Going to show everybody some shocking footage from a backstage fight. Yeah. Don't get me started. But let's go through WrestleMania. Some of your highlights of and some lowlights, whatever you want to shoot from the hip. What are some moments that you really loved about WrestleMania or didn't love?
You know what? Here's a good example of that. As I was watching the Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Logan Paul match, I was a big fan of that first, probably 65% of that match. Sort of the comedy, the psychology that was being used there between Owens and Orton working together, kicking the shit out of Logan Paul, getting that, and he's just so he's so easy to not like Logan
Despicable,
Paul.
contemptible piece of trash, I think is the word you're looking for.
And so it was just great to see these two pro wrestlers kick the shit out of him, man. And I thought the match was going into a great place. And then when they involved the YouTuber or whatever, the social media darling that was in the Prime bottle, and he got physically involved in the match, I was like, this just took an awful right turn and just went off the rails.
Yeah, I don't need to see any of his jerk off posse on TV.
No,
to be honest with you.
Yeah, and especially in a WrestleMania match, you know what? And to go through a table, no less. And I have no idea who this guy is. You know what? He shouldn't be involved physically. If you wanted him in that thing, he's distracting him by barking or whatever he did. All right, so be it. But don't let him get physical and actually take a table spot here. And that took away. And again, I thought it went from being an almost A level, an A grade sort of match, and it immediately dropped down to a C for me. It was just, I was like, this was garbage. But yeah, I do really appreciate all three of their skills and their talents in there, man. And then just had all the makings of like a classic United States Championship match there. But Logan Paul wins. Big day for Prime being on the mat. What'd you think of that with them getting that sponsorship, huh?
Don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's just with WWE, there is going to be that Disney World aspect to it. They're going to try to make money from major sponsors every step of the way. See, they just announced a huge partnership in the press conference with C4 as their number one as the official energy drink. Is Prime an energy drink, by the way?
I think it is. I've never had it, but I believe it is.
I'm not putting one dime into Logan Paul's fucking pocket for the record, so he can kiss my ass. But even though I guess unless he can get a portion of the Peacock money he's getting, you know what I mean. So I don't know because they announced C4. So if Prime's an energy drink, I don't know if there was some whatever. I guess you could have more than one energy drink as your sponsors. I didn't have much of an opinion of this match. I was kind of I kind of saw it. I didn't not that I saw it coming, but once I saw the Prime bottle, I knew that KS guy, whatever the hell his name is. I don't even want. I'm not looking it up either.
Yeah.
When he was involved, it was like okay, but nothing. That match I never thought was going to be special. I didn't, and so the chicanery was something that I kind of thought was happening. So it didn't disappoint me as much. And quite frankly, because I knew Logan Paul was winning, the matches are like, for me, extraordinarily clear what's going to happen. Yeah. I think I might even fast forward parts of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because there were points in time where I stopped watching to make dinner or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So that match never grabbed me. I thought it was entertaining. Like you said, the humor. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton are two of the best, period. Logan Paul is obviously taking it to like a duck to water. So that's cool. What other matches did you like or not like or?
Off the top of my head, you know what? Like who sort of I thought rose to the occasion was man, is it Io Sky or Io Shirai? I always confuse them.
She's Io Sky now. It used to be Io Shirai.
Io Sky. Yeah, okay. So Io Sky. Her match with Bayley, and again, you and I both knew Bayley was going to win.
Yeah,
man, she pulled off some moves in that. I'm like, holy crap, is she talented?
Yeah,
like I underestimate her at times, and then I watch another one of her matches, and I'm like, wow, she's freaking awesome.
Yeah, all three of the Japanese ladies from Damage Control are all fantastic. Yeah. They really are. Yeah. They all cut their teeth in Japan, learning the ropes, all working with Kenny Omega at one point in time, by the way. So, they are all great and they're all talented in their own way and they're all very special and unique. These women and similar to done with the Usos and similar to what they've done with others, they're trying to individualize each and every one of them. They got rid of that stupid pirate gimmick with Kairi Sane. Asuka's already a probable WWE Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah.
And Io Sky is on her way there. All three of these women really know what they're doing when they're inside that ring. And yeah, that was a very good match. I was happy. I honestly thought it was better than Rhea and Becky.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which I don't think either of us or that many people saw that coming. Like, which one would be the better match out of the two?
Yeah,
that one was probably a little disappointing, unfortunately. Not the crispest I ever seen Becky or Rhea look for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Especially when you see what Rhea and Charlotte did last year. It was a little underwhelming, which that was one of the matches I thought was going to be great. What'd you think about the tag team match?
Which one are you talking about? The titles?
The tag team title match. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I was able to go and watch most of that. Sort of a spot fest, of course. I mean, it's chaos as we expected. How can I put this?
How do you think those two jerk-offs going over?
You know what? The
Austin Theory and Waller.
I don't, and it seemed like they were about to split up too. So I'm not sure what's going on there, honestly. There's no way I'm going to try to justify it. Or I'm not a fan of either's really. So,
well, luckily they'll be on TV every week. Still great.
Yeah. Until, I mean,
no offense to anyone who likes them.
Yes, no, but it's like I could see them losing it quick as well. And then the draft happens, and then they split them up.
And that tag team division is getting really good. I think that's what you see Triple H has been trying to do. He's been trying slowly but surely to get some top tag teams being competitive, and that's how you build your tag team division. That's something that Vince never really cared about. It just sometimes they had a really good tag division just because you couldn't stop what the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys could do, and everybody else that came with it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that tag division. But I don't like those two winning.
I wasn't crazy about that, and I wasn't, like this was not my favorite match by any means, but I did like seeing R-Truth win it and having his moment. So I mean that to me, that made it worth the while at least to witness that.
Yeah. So. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Intercontinental Championship match, which for me was the best match of the night in the first night. And I'm not just saying that because Sami Zayn's blood, sweat, and tears not only got him the Intercontinental Championship, also got yours truly, Silicon Steve Valley, the Purple Nurple, the High Spots and Sheep Hops Pick'em Championship. And by the way, I would have had a lot more confidence in Sami Zayn winning if I didn't fast forward through the vignette from last week, because I watched it back after the fact, and they took like 2 scenes from Rocky 3 almost verbatim. It was a joke. And I didn't even notice they were doing a Rocky 3 theme until Chad Gable, and I text you, I think, right before it, Chad Gable said, "Don't forget you owe me a favor."
Right. Yeah, it's Apollo Creed, basically.
And I was like, wait a minute, they're in Philadelphia. That's how they do it. And similar to Seth Rollins, because Chad Gable was so beloved and wanted to be part of that story, they got him to be part of that story. And similar, does Sami Zayn win without Chad Gable's help? We don't know. He pulled out that hunger, that eye of the tiger, man, the edge. And the worst one was when when he's like, what are you holding back? He's like, I'm not holding anything back, Chad. First of all, he's trying to be real emotional.
Yeah.
And this was just such a bad vignette because, I don't know, are you buying any of this?
None.
No, Chad. First of all, his name's Chad. Sounds so weird when you're being emotional as a guy and saying, Chad. I'm not holding anything back, Chad. Yes, you are. Why are you? Why? Because I'm afraid, all right? And that was exactly like that moment with Adrian and Rocky Balboa on the beach. What's the truth, damn it? I'm afraid, all right? You want to break me down? Bloody God, you want to break me down? Okay, I'm afraid. And I was like, once I realized that, Sami Zayn was a no-brainer. And I'm glad I picked him.
Right.
Ironically, though, Vladdy, I wanted to switch my pick, and you said no. Official is official. And so you're a man of integrity, and I appreciate that from you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Man of beautiful integrity, the greatest Purple Nurple champion of all time, folks. Longest reigning, the inaugural one. Who could forget Full Gear 2021 when you won it for the very first time? So you're the greatest, you're the first, but you're not current. And that's because of Sami frickin' Zayn. But what'd you think of the match, though?
I mean, the match was it was all right. I mean, it wasn't like my favorite Gunther match by any means.
That brainbuster, wow, turning point of the match.
Yeah, it was. And then I being honest, I prefer the Sami match with Roman in Montreal. I thought that was great. This was good, served its purpose. They rewrote Rocky, and now the title's off of Gunther. So
where do you think they're going to go? Yeah, where are they going with Gunther at this point in time? Is he going to still feud with Sami, or is he going to be?
I think he goes onward and upward.
I wonder who he's going to. I mean, he and Cody have a little bit of a history with the Royal Rumble and things of that nature. So it'd be interesting. The draft is really when we're going to know where things are headed. All the other matches were okay, or they were good. They did their job, but nothing that from that, other than those matches, nothing really stood out. We talked about how the mid card and the undercard wasn't the most impressive thing, but with all the emotion that went into that main event and the McIntyre Seth Rollins match and everything going on with the bloodline, it wasn't 100% necessary to have every single thing be epic. They had some fun spots with Bubba Ray Dudley as a special guest referee with the Pride and the Spooky Fallen Forgotten Testament. final
Final
testament.
Testament. That's it. Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
final
So
testament.
that says ECW as WrestleMania got, especially with Bubba Ray being there, and then I don't know, just the gimmick fest at that point. But and
I
who
didn't
ended
even
up winning? That
pay
was
attention.
the Pride one, right?
The Pride won that match, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they did the great spot where all three of them got the tables. Oh, it was great.
Nostalgia.
Bully Ray can pretend he's the greatest wrestler ever still, or top 20 performer of all time still. And he's not even top 100, but it's okay.
He's never shy with his opinions, that guy.
And I agree with him a majority of the time, but sometimes he just says things and he puts himself over so fucking much. It's just obnoxious. But look, he's a Hall of Famer. He's in one of the most decorated tag teams of all time. I give him a little bit more respect. I never liked Billy Ray because he said things back in me. I'm a guy who likes technical wrestling, and he was TNA champion, and he said something to the effect where technical wrestling is boring. People just want to see someone get beat up. And I just was like, that's such an arrogant thing to say. The reason you say that, Bully Ray, is because you can't technically wrestle. And then he starts being all, what's the word I'm looking for? Sanctimonious about what kind of heel you should be. Like MGF gets too many laughs, and he wasn't a real heel. He wasn't just getting real heat like we did. Meanwhile, he has a fat, hairy-chested ring announcer getting cheap heat for him. They got some asshole with a sign running around getting cheap heat for him. Virtually their entire heel run. But I guess Bully Ray doesn't want to bring that part up. I guess. Okay.
I love Joel Gertner, so I'm all good with it.
And headbutt people in the balls, Billy Ray. Yeah, you're brilliant.
The sign guy was very talented as well.
Joel Gertner. And I love Joel Gertner. Love him. Worked a show with me at WXWC4.
Did he?
Yes, he did. I didn't really meet him much, though. I was too busy doing other shit. He was in the back, and I was doing commentary that night.
Interesting.
So I didn't have a good opportunity. I said, hey, nice to meet you, and that was about it. He said, you're fatter than me. It's disgusting. No, I was thinner at the time, so actually he was fatter than me. But, I don't know. This is my little thing on Bully. Sometimes I go off on Bully.
Yeah, but you feel better now, though.
I still got a lot of respect for him, and he's still, again, I just think it's his opinion, and that's the way it is, and he thinks he knows everything. I think if he didn't have such self-grandeur, delusions of grandeur about himself, I probably would like him a lot more. But when you start talking to yourself like you're, an all-time great, when you're talking like you're Ric Flair, and you're just a tag team guy, I mean, that's where he's not making the Hall of Fame as just Bully Ray, right? Or Bubba. That's never happening. Like Mike Rotunda or Barry Windham, both of those guys could go in as singles wrestlers. Bubba Ray can't. You can't just, because they don't give a shit what happened in TNA and GCW, whatever other indie promotion he worked in. But anyway, I digress. But nothing else was crazy. The Jade Cargill got the victory. That match was exactly what we thought it was going to be. She's still being very much protected. She didn't look great. Yeah. My neighbor thought she looked terrible. I didn't think she looked that bad. I mean, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, you know what? They had they're very careful what they ask her to do, and she's very green, and the only way she's going to get better is working with people like Bianca Belair and Asuka, and Bailey or anybody else from the Four Horsewomen. I mean, that sort of experience will go a long way. So let's see where she is about a year from now. If she's still not improved, then you know what? We probably are just dealing with a one-trick pony.
Well, apparently her biggest problem is she's forgetting spots. It's not her execution of the moves. It's not her athleticism. Certainly not her look. She doesn't remember her spots. So she's got to be in there with someone who's basically calling the whole match for her. And it's like your point. So that is exactly what you're saying. You got to put her with someone who can be so good, like a Bret Hart type person, and hopefully Bailey can be that, which is a great person to be. She needs to be in there with a ring general, and then she could be great. But because she has such an incredible look, I think a lot of people want her to be in the world championship picture already. And she's not the worker that any of the top 10 people in WWE are right now. And your look is only going to get you so far with the current day professional wrestling fan.
Yeah, I see that she on social media, I forget which one it was, but she put herself over, of course, with this last match from Monday Night Raw, and then she put down there 2-0. So I don't know if she's starting a little countdown like she had elsewhere, and or maybe Goldberg-esque here again with another undefeated streak and all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go that route, but she definitely indicated her record.
I don't think it's going to be that long because I don't think they're going to give her enough matches where she's going to be able to look that good for that long.
Yeah.
So that would probably might be my only thing, where Asuka can go out and work night after night after night and do all these different loops and do all these different house shows, and which is why she's able to catch Goldberg so quickly. You could do that with Asuka because she can work. She's been in the business for over a decade. She knows what she's doing. Jade Cargill, especially for WWE, they work a little bit differently. And also, it's a completely different, it's a completely different way they produce matches. So, but other than that, Vadi, WrestleMania, just again, the emotion that we all felt and been on this ride and the big things that happened. Overall, this is one of the best WrestleManias I've seen in a very, very long time. And no matter what the undercard was, the emotion you felt at the end of this WrestleMania was something that you can't bottle. If you could, you'd sell it for billions of dollars, because it might have been the most emotional and best book finish to a pay-per-view in WrestleMania history. And again, I can't think of one that would be better, with the exception. Macho Man Randy Savage was a great one, WrestleMania 4. With the story with, $1 Million Man. I actually like that story more so because it was also the building of the Mega Powers and the battle with DiBiase and Andre the Giant. I mean, that was a really well put together storyline, with Randy Macho Man Savage going wrestling 4 times, and every match got better and better. So what you like about that? So that's another one that I'll always remember. And that one, of course, I saw as a kid. I loved WrestleMania 15. That's always one of my favorites. WrestleMania 17 is one of my favorites. But the main events after those matches, I don't think made me feel the same way this time around, and it's because you didn't have a guy like Roman as your top heel, and you didn't have a guy who is clearly going to be the next face of your company. The beginning, so you have this huge era in this beginning. It wasn't like, for me, you weren't really out of the Hogan era when Macho Man won. It was still very much the Hogan era. Stone Cold beating HBK, that wasn't as big of a deal because we knew HBK was not vibing. He was beat up. He was miserable. He just got Bret Hart fired.
Yep.
So we knew, and Stone Cold already was on the wall, but Shawn Michaels wasn't that type of heel like Roman Reigns is. And that never really happened. There was never a heel that had this kind of run since, I'm trying to think. Everyone who had a big run was a babyface. Yeah. Everybody had a huge monster run in WWE, WWF, WWF. They were all babyfaces. Hogan, Backlund, and San Martino. All 3 of them monster babyfaces. This was a heel. And this is a great segue, Vladdy. Let's talk about this run of Roman Reigns. And now that it is over, and here's a nice spot where the WWE showed where Roman and Heyman having a moment on stage when everyone was paying attention to all the baby faces and Cody in the ring. A nice moment with Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns finally being dethroned after a lot of close calls and almost 4 years as world champion. Incredible run. And it was the best thing on WWE TV for a long time when it started. Got us through the pandemic. Probably he and Jey Uso, who would have saw when that first happened, the star Jey Uso would have became into. Yeah. And then you have everything else with Jay and Jimmy coming back to life, and they set an all-time record. In the midst of Roman's big record, they set an all-time record of tag team titles being tag team champions. You bring in Solo Sikoa. all these different players. Now these are all bona fide major stars in WWE. And I mean, geez, I went back to school after Roman won that title, and I graduated and got my bachelor's degree before Roman's title reign was over.
Yep.
You know, we were in the middle of a pandemic. The world has changed. And Roman Reigns was there the entire time. And in retrospect, we hated the move of him winning last year on Cody. But what this moment meant, it meant that it was all worthwhile. And you can go back. I mean, there's guys that are literally champions in AEW right now that Roman Reigns beat at WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's incredible what this guy has done. And kudos to Paul Heyman. Kudos to whoever had a big part in making this a 4-year program where 80% of the time for me, it was very interesting and great. The Sami Zayn stuff. Who can forget that? Cody being a big part of this. The Seth Rollins loss at the Royal Rumble, which set a seed for the finale of what we just saw this past week. It was groundbreaking. It was revolutionary, possibly, certainly evolutionary, how they shot certain things. Paul Heyman using Paul Heyman in just background shots, the way they've built that storyline, the way Paul Heyman has started praying almost to Roman. This was historic. It was legendary. And it was the only thing that would have made the moment with Cody Rhodes that beautiful and that spectacular. If it wasn't for that 1,316 days, now that's just the next face getting his title reign, and there he goes, and he's off to the races. This was something much bigger and much different that we never saw in WWE before.
Yeah, it's totally unique, and Roman totally pulled it off. The relationship between he and Heyman, it's one of my favorite things in pro wrestling. The way Heyman plays off of him, just anytime Roman refers to him as the wise man, I sort of chuckle. It's perfect. And these two guys were able to go and brainstorm together, come up with this, go in this direction, and really just showed that, okay, maybe I'm not the greatest baby face in the planet, but if you give me a chance as a heel, I can run this place. And he totally did it. And as you mentioned, he was able to go and build up his cousins and basically establish them where he doesn't necessarily have to be next to them all the time. And also they're not getting lost in the mix as well in terms of tag teams. This is just a really unique, wonderful sort of reign that he had. And one thing I'll say too is people kind of get on him because of the amount of matches he had versus the amount of time, and it sort of irritates me a little bit. You know, they want to compare it to like how many matches Bruno had, or even Pedro Morales, even, people like this. And I'm looking at it where they avoided oversaturating him, number one. And actually, I wouldn't even say that's number one. Number one is the fact that this guy is still dealing with leukemia, still dealing with chemotherapy, and was able to carry this through for over 4 years and still put this company on his back. And if it means that I don't have to see him get into a useless feud or a match with some random jobbers where he's basically, maybe getting weaker in terms of his immune system, or it adds absolutely nothing to his reign other than statistics, I'm okay with skipping that, as long as it makes sense with everything else. And he had a really memorable reign. And the way that it ended, people are going to look back at it and certain parts of it, especially when Sammy was involved. I mean, people wax poetic about the Attitude Era. In terms of Roman, that right there, that part of it, when Sammy was trying to become part of the bloodline, was just gold. It's excellent. So, yeah, he gave us so many good moments, man. Overall, I totally appreciate what he did, and his legend just grows. He just went into an upper echelon after that reign. He's one of the guys around. So, like, we'll be seeing him WrestleManias for years to come, a la John Cena and Undertaker and others.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He's only 38. I think he and Cody are only about a year off. So that brings us to our next part of this conversation. Where does the bloodline go from here? Rumors of Jacob Fatu already said he's going to be inked by WWE by today, as a matter of fact. Tama Tonga teasing, as he's done several times earlier. Teasing, he has the red phone. Give him a call. He, of course, is a distant member of the Samoan dynasty. And this is a couple other things. Jimmy loses to Jay, and then Jimmy couldn't get it done helping Roman. Is there going to be some dissension there come Friday? Also, Solo was barking orders at Roman Reigns at parts of this match.
Oh, yeah.
Finish the story. Finish him now. Take care of this. Take care of this. Solo doing everything he can again. And so Roman, even at one point, I know, like yelling at him, like, don't you talk to me that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So where does the bloodline go from here? And by the way, The Rock is going away. So there's not going to be anything with The Rock and Roman this Friday. This is going to be all bloodline business, you would think.
Yep.
And we'll get into Rock and Cody in a second, but I want to focus on the bloodline here. What do you see our tribal chief, the wise man, and the rest of the bloodline, where do you think they go come Friday? Are we going to see a completely new members just added? Are we going to see a member or two excommunicated? What is going to happen? Is Solo going to turn on Roman? Is Roman going to turn on Solo? You have a feeling Solo and Roman are going to be separated sometime here soon.
Yeah, definitely. Because plus he named him as like the heir apparent, and with that aggression that Solo was showing, you could see that they're not necessarily on the same page. Really, they haven't really been on the same page ever since The Rock returned. That, like, there's certain times where The Rock was doing his promos, and you can just see Solo being like, "Why aren't we destroying this guy right now?" This, like, he could see through it. And I gotta tell you one thing. I don't know how often they do this, but that combination of the Samoan Spike and the Spear together, great finisher.
Yeah, that was their finisher, and they were a tag team for a hot second.
Yeah, that's a thing of beauty, man. Great job with that. Like, as far as if they were to remain together, but I don't think that's going to be the case. You look at it, you got Jay is involved in the world title scene on Raw for the time being. Solo and Jimmy still with them, defeated, banged up, never been this low in 4 years.
No titles.
No titles, dissension amongst the ranks. And if Roman's going to remain as a heel for the time being, I would say you would probably see Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga arrive, and him basically taking out those two guys.
Not Tonga Lee, not the big guy, his other brother. I forget his name, but I'm wondering if he's a free agent as well. They were the original GOD, Guerrillas of Destiny. So I'm wondering if he's also a free agent.
The big dude?
Not the big dude. The big dude's still there, and he's actually in the Guerrillas of Destiny. It's him and El Phantasmo in New Japan. They are now the Guerrillas of Destiny now, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure of the other guy, actually.
But yeah, anyway, Haku's other son. Not Tama Tonga, the real big one.
Yeah. So if these two guys arrived and then Roman had this sort of acting as if he played this and had this in his back pocket, and these two guys go on the offensive and kick the shit out of them, it could start making them sympathetic figures as well. And then Jay sees this, and then depending on what happens in the draft, they might be reunited. Wouldn't be shocking.
So if you had a gun to your head, you're thinking Roman stays heel, or do you think Solo turns babyface, or do you think They're going to keep it as is. They're just going to add people to the bloodline.
I don't think they're gonna. I think you'll see dissension amongst the bloodline. Maybe he adds these two, and they build up more, like let it percolate a little bit before it finally implodes.
Roman could start treating Solo like he treated Jimmy and Jay at different times, like really disrespecting them, showing favor towards someone else.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Roman has done that before, but he's always favored Solo. And if Solo kind of gets that kind of vibe, Solo doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to take that shit laying down. And again, Solo's screaming at Roman at the end of this match.
Yeah. So I got a feeling they're going to go and incorporate these others, and with The Rock being out of the mix for a bit, because really, what I was hoping to see on Monday Night Raw was Rock basically dressing down Roman about losing.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get that. It seems like they're avoiding that for the time being.
Yeah, they planted seeds for Rock and Cody for sure.
Yeah, and Roman's got to pick up the pieces of his empire. He's going to be desperate as all hell. And, Cody's going to be on both shows. So, I mean, this has all the makings for Roman to sort of fester a little bit. And, and then my feeling too is like eventually they're going to make Roman the sympathetic figure here because of The Rock. Rock being the final boss. I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost like Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu are like almost like double agents for The Rock, So, I'm intrigued to see where this is all going to go, but that's my guess on what might happen.
Well, speaking of The Rock, let's go over to he and Cody and what went down on Monday Night Raw 2 nights ago. We had in a 45-minute segment between Cody explaining what his new inspiration is, his daughter. Thank God it wasn't that stupid gender reveal again. That was terrible. Awful. One of the reasons he started getting booed out of that company, by the way, that stupid gender reveal.
Yeah.
That and the Anthony Ogogo storyline. Wow. Anyway.
Speaking of the devil, he appeared again, huh?
Oh, well, we're certainly not. Yeah. The crowd cared.
Just the timing of it.
The crowd didn't give a flying shit.
Right.
3 years ago when he was in that 3 years ago or 4 years ago when he was in that dumb storyline with Cody, and they sure as hell don't care now. But I was that Anthony Ogogo that came back, or was it the other guy?
No, Ogogo. You're thinking Aaron Solo.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Solo.
Ogogo.
Whatever. I don't know that. You know it better than Solo. Ogogo.
Camarato.
Shout out to Corny. The Rock, and I watched Wrestle Talk and a couple other people saying this was a great segment. This was like, it was the crowd started chanting it was awkward because it was
great
probably
chant.
the worst promo during this entire program. It was the worst segment.
That was like a beautiful chant for that. I started laughing when I heard it. I go, they're chanting, "This is awkward," and it totally was.
Yeah, it was just weird. They went round and round in circles. And The Rock, every time the chant started, The Rock played into it, let him get 3 minutes of chanting in.
Yeah.
It was great, though. The Rock did make fun of the audience, but he kept it pretty businesslike. And then the whole thing switching the titles was long and winded. You could have made a point that he wants that title a lot more than they actually switch. Yeah. Never goes well. Look at Becky and Charlotte. But anyway, you get to the end toward the end of this segment, and then you start seeing it. The Rock isn't a full-blown scumbag heel. For me, it seems like he's being brutal, and if he gets booed, he's going to lay into it, but he handed Cody something. Obviously, they teased. Rock said, this feels great. This feels just right with him being the Universal Champion, so we know we're going to probably get that. It's seemingly the rumored main event for next year, Roman and Rock, which, by the way, you could turn, if CM Punk comes back, he can win the Royal Rumble and face Drew McIntyre. I think we might have mentioned that earlier in the podcast. So then you can have The Rock and Roman or The Rock and Cody without worrying about who gets the Royal Rumble. So Rock says, "Don't break my heart again." And he's like, "You know what this is without even opening up your hand." What did The Rock give him? And he said, "Don't break my heart again." Right. Meaning that you hurt me. I was hurt when you talked about my family. So The Rock there's a level of respect. He gave Cody all the respect in the world. Definitely not a big trust there between Cody and The Rock, but there was genuine respect from The Rock before, and he gave Cody something. Now, Cody told a story about the Rolex that his dad pawned just so he can get his acting lessons, and somehow The Rock and Triple H and Nick Khan tracked down this Rolex. Would that be what it was? There was someone saying that it might be a Samoan rock, which is like a stone that shows leadership. I doubt it. Sincerely doubt it would be that. That's what Wrestle Talk said.
Yeah.
Wrestle Talk had a bad day today. Luke, whatever his name is, thought last night's Raw or Monday night's Raw was a 5 out of 5. I thought it was a very underwhelming Raw after WrestleMania. I would give it a 3, if anything, maybe a 2.
I wouldn't. I honestly, if I paid for a ticket, I would have been annoyed that that's what the Monday Night Raw was after WrestleMania. Like,
well, CM
don't get
Punk
me
came
wrong.
back out and said hi to everybody.
Yeah, and that's how they sugarcoat it. But the thing is, like, they gave the first hour being commercial free. And listen, I love the moment between Triple H and Cody, and then after Triple H leaves, Cody does his speech. Okay, it's his time. I get it. Then The Rock came out, and the way he was playing the crowd and just stringing it along, man, talking about milking the minutes. Holy crap! I'm like, and I'm just waiting. I'm like, okay, you're gonna say something like, you're The Rock. You can handle their what chance or whatever. And it just took forever. And in terms of what The Rock gave him, I mean, maybe they play it that. See, the breaking my heart thing, I took it as Cody took away the main event from The Rock and Roman.
I like that. Okay.
So therefore, what does The Rock want? He wants his main event at WrestleMania with Cody, is what I'm thinking. And with or without a title. And maybe, they did Rock mentioned his dad and Cody's dad on the loop together. So they're here, their fathers went and worked together as well. And it seemed personal. So my feeling, it might be that Rolex thing where, hey, The Rock promised he would get that, that Rolex, even though Cody, took his main event away, but he still gave it to him. So that would be my guess.
I think it's the Rolex. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Cody cried 17 times in this segment, though. He cried a lot. Holy shit.
Yeah. Although the first time, I think it was the first time after they showed that movie, my wife was watching with me, and she's like, "Where's his tears?" I go, "That's Cody." I go, "Yeah, he's not quite. He's playing it up a little bit there."
Oh,
yeah.
It was funny on our Kellen Tim on our Facebook group, and give a big shout out to Kellen. He had said, "What are our predictions tonight?" And the first thing I said is Cody's going to cry, and
yes,
I was literally the first one to get a prediction right. Anyone who said MJF was showing up tonight, come on, get in the game.
Yeah.
Guys ain't to deal with AEW. For Christ's sake.
I mean, out of that first hour, 30% of it was necessary. So yeah, a lot of dead. Like, to me, it was almost a dead air at times. And again, watching The Rock out there and him, getting bleeped basically at a few times. I can't wait for this to go to Netflix.
And it just takes away from it takes away from us, the viewer. It does. And when you have to stop you have to bleep and silence out the crowd because they're chanting something. It actually takes so much away from me enjoying it. And that took a lot away from this segment for me. It was kind of like jerking with a semi. It was like, all right, let's get to it. Let's go. We don't need this much time for this segment. But I digress. Rock verbatim said, when The Rock comes back, he's coming right with or without a title. I'm coming after you, Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
So
I like how he left that open ended. By the way, so it's not like, okay, Cody's definitely going to be winning all these title feuds because The Rock is coming back, and at least they didn't necessarily, or they're not relying on that. I'm glad they didn't do that.
Well, yeah, in that point in time, you need to maybe book something stupid just so you can get that title match, which they've done how many times before? Goldberg, Kevin Owens reminded anybody of anything?
Yeah. Right.
Goldberg, didn't he beat The Fiend real quick too? Goldberg?
Yeah.
In three under 3 minutes. God, I fucking hate Vince McMahon. Fuck you, Vince McMahon. Seriously, I am glad you're not around anymore. And 99% of the wrestling fans on this planet are really glad you're gone. Not because you're a perverted, creepy old man who like to took shit on women. No, it's because you couldn't book your way out of a paper bag with scissors in your hands, with the paper bag being soaking wet. You're a terrible booker, a terrible wrestling creative mind the last 15 years were in the game. You embarrassed yourself, and you're the biggest reason that people are really glad you're gone because of the person and the booker you were and the person you became. So, Vince, bye-bye, buddy.
Fuck you, pal.
Fuck you, pal. I mean, if he's watching WrestleMania and he sees that, do you think he's like, I could have done better?
Oh, definitely. What the hell is this match?
Why isn't Baron Corbin going over? Where's Baron Corbin, for fuck's sake?
See, Austin Theory's tag team champ. Paul knew what to do there.
Holy shit, I better text Pritchard and tell him to put Austin Theory and Grayson Waller over. That'll work. Make sure my guys go over. Wink, wink. Hey, I got an idea, Triple H. Why don't we get Grayson Waller and Austin Theory these tag titles? That'd be good. Get some heat. Get ready for... What do you think? It's a pretty stupid idea. I don't like it. But fuck it. I don't care. Do what you want. That's how that conversation went. So Vince still sprinkling his little shit. I'm just kidding. That's a conspiracy theory. But yeah, just Vince McMahon not being part of this is the biggest addition to WWE. They could have signed any free agent. They could have signed Jesus Christ to come out and have a one-on-one match with The Rock himself. That would not get more eyes on the product and benefit WWE the way Vince McMahon's subtraction from the company and from their creative has created. So let's be real for a second. Real. Like people that love AEW and love WWE, you go back 2.5, 3 years, AEW was hands down the better product. As soon as Vince is taken out of the equation, that's been flipped around. And now we're like, what are you doing AEW? Vince getting taken away is one of the biggest things that the heat's turned up on Tony Khan because he's no longer being compared with a out-of-touch, decrepit old perverted douche named Vince McMahon. Now he has a guy who, has been one of the top heel wrestlers of all time, learned under the learning tree of so many incredible people like Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, plus Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. This guy
I thought I sucked, pal.
And this guy has every tool to be great. And he also comes from a place of going up the roads and doing the towns and taking the bumps week after week, night after night. So Triple H is, quote Seth Rollins, uniquely suited to carry WWE into things that we've never seen before. And Vince, you were such dog shit for so long. You're embarrassing. You embarrassed yourself and your company and your poor daughter. Good to see her back, by the way.
That's what I was going to ask you. What are your thoughts about Stephanie returning and opening up night 2?
She's the good one, isn't she? So, yeah.
Well, her and Shane, yeah.
We'll see. I don't know about Shane. Probably double teamed a couple ladies with Vince before.
He had pretty good reviews from people that worked there.
I'm kidding. I like Shane. I like Shane and like Stephanie. Linda and Vince both give me crusted scabies just by thinking about them. So,
ironically,
Vince McMahon has scabies.
Yeah, I saw Charlotte Flair's media post that she did like a photo dump, and there is a photo of Charlotte with Stephanie and Linda.
Yeah,
at WrestleMania. And
I did hear about that.
Look at Linda. I was like, look at that. Someone I didn't expect. How awkward is that? Hey, Linda, how you doing? It's crazy stuff about your husband.
You ever get shit on?
That's
like
I doubt it.
Proverbially or literally or proverbially?
Yeah, but
literally or figuratively, I get shit on because Linda's been shit on a lot in the past. I think a part of it with Linda, I mean, they haven't been a happily married couple in decades. Linda probably is a little bit like good for him.
They have an arrangement, I bet.
I'm sure. A lot of powerful men have had it. We know that, I don't want to get political, but, a lot of powerful men have their women stay with powerful men sometimes because of their own benefit, not because they love the person. So That's what we had with Linda and Vince. They're still married technically. Fucking weird, but
Technicality for tax purposes, pal.
So I think it's the watch with Cody and The Rock. I'm excited to see where that storyline goes when The Rock does come back, but he's going to finish. He's going to work on a biopic about some MMA fighter or something, and I don't care. So, um, as we take a quick little break and we switch to the Young Bucks and everything going on with Tony Khan, hey, please hit the subscribe button if you're listening, if you catch us on YouTube, but follow us here on Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcast. Check us out and go on Facebook. Join our group, High Spots and Cheap Pops Professional Wrestling fan page. Follow us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at High Popper. But Vadi Dottie, it wasn't all about WWE this past week, was it?
No, it wasn't.
I
Somehow or
didn't watch
another.
any AEW. I'm not going to lie. I watched a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat. You and I did a couple of extra podcasts last week, and we're really concentrating on WWE content. Sort of led off with, of all things, the CM Punk interview with Ariel Helwani. We discussed that, and then you're building up between Raw before WrestleMania, and then you also have the SmackDown before WrestleMania. And then what was it? Was it after night? Was it Friday night or Saturday night? This news came out.
I thought it dropped on Saturday night, and it did because Michael Cole made a quick comment when he was introducing CM Punk. When CM Punk, he said, "The man where the wrestling internet marks used to get headlines." And it seems as if it was, and you sent it to me, you sent me all this stuff. What Meltzer said about it and clarifying, and Alvarez and clarifying that we are going to get actual footage of this, probably this backstage incident. Apparently it's going to be in documentary form where the Young Bucks are going to kind of narrate what you're watching, and they're going to tell you their side of the story. They can't talk about All Out. That's the thing that had the NDA, apparently, if we want to go by what CM Punk said. There's so many things to unpack in this situation.
Yeah.
First of all, the Young Bucks are right now their top heel tag team. The presumable winners of this tournament when they face FTR at Dynasty. And they're trying to be a scumbag heel. This is as dark of a heel that they've been in a very long time. The way they went after Darby Allin, the way they went after Sting, blood all over their suits that they wore for the next match they had to, which was weird continuity if you're wrestling fan. But I guess it was Rampage, so it was taped the same night. So the first thing is, obviously we know everything that CM Punk said last week. We had to please go watch and listen to our podcast, watch our videos about what CM Punk said and what we thought about that. First, should they have responded at all, or is it too little too late? Secondly, should you respond like in a shoot way where it's the truth, where you might turn your top heel tag team into sympathetic characters that your niche, creepy, fucked up audience might start cheering for? That the AEW fans might start cheering for. I don't want to turn anybody up. Is that something that you endanger? Are they going to incorporate this footage in a storyline with FTR, since FTR, as you can see, we're very close with CM Punk?
Yeah.
Is that why they're doing it? Or are they legitimately trying to give AEW side to all this after CM Punk went absolute scorched earth on them on Ariel Helwani, laughing at AEW, several shots thrown at AEW throughout the weekend, 2 by Triple H, not to mention everything CM Punk said, 1 by Rhea Ripley, Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, every chance he gets, he throws some shade at AEW. So WWE has been really poking the AEW, it's not really a bear, poking the AEW angry ferret. Is that what AEW would be compared to WWE? Or maybe a rabid mouse?
Maybe like a sort of I don't know, like a demented raccoon or something.
I think raccoons could be very, very vicious. That's why I didn't go. I was
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
raccoon. I went ferret instead of raccoon because ferrets are kind of pussy. I mean,
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I wouldn't compare. Yeah, the Bucks would definitely lose in a fight to a raccoon.
let's just put it out there.
Yeah,
So
that's
So those are the
affirmative.
questions, though. Is this even fucking necessary? Is it going to make a damn bit of difference in ratings? Sure, it might get a ratings pop, but you can't rely on those things. That's what AEW does. Big announcement. Let's get the big ratings pop. You have to be good. And the sad part is AEW television's been so much better at the beginning of the year, and they just have to be patient. But every 3 seconds, you're seeing them. You're hearing about the ratings. Every 3 seconds, you're on the internet and you're seeing how they only have a third of the building filled. It's just a lot of negativity. Look, Stone Cold Steve Austin dropped Austin 316 in 1996. They didn't beat WCW in the ratings till 1998. It takes time to get an audience to watch every single solitary week, and you got to make sure it's good. And when you focus your time on this, if it's not entertaining, it's just going to look like you are a teenage, immature little baby, and you have to get the final say. You dumb asses, if this was such a big deal, you should have started talking instead of just going through your boyfriends, Meltzer and Alvarez. You should have been honest and cutting real good interviews prior to this. This is reactive. This is, again, reactive. And that's all AEW's been doing in terms of this kind of shit lately. Stay away from the drama and tell your good stories. Because if this doesn't tie in the right way, this could be a disaster, and it could fall flat. And if this falls flat, this is not the time for AEW. When you're trying to get a television contract, this is not the time for you to look like immature clown shoes, jabroni, receded running promotion douchebags. And that's what I fear this is going to be. This is something that is way too, it's a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah.
And if people who love the Bucks and love the Elite and hate CM Punk are not going to change their mind no matter what is said. They didn't change their mind when they heard CM Punk say last week. And the people who love CM Punk and think he's right 100% no matter what, and the Elite are just a bunch of indie jerk-offs who couldn't run a target, they're not going to change their mind either.
Right.
So what is the point of this? Just to get your story out? You could have went on any podcast and done the same thing that Punk did. The reason you're not doing it is because no one gives a shit about what you would say in front of a microphone, where they do care about Punk. So when you do it, let's make a business decision out of it. Let's try to get a ratings pop, which is carny bullshit.
Yep.
Carny bullshit. Carny bullshit.
Bullshit.
Now, you hear that it's going to be actual footage and it's going to prove that CM Punk is a liar. That's what you are hearing. Is it really? So
What did he punch him versus just choke him out? Like, is that what they're going for here? Like,
that doesn't prove that. First of all, I know CM Punk's a liar. CM Punk, but he doesn't think he's a liar. CM Punk speaks his own truth. But I know Punk lied about how when he talked to WWE officials for the first time, we know he lied about that on that Ariel Helwani interview. Because Michael Cole would have made 17 hints towards CM Punk the weeks prior leading up to it if there was no contact. You think we're that fucking stupid? So CM Punk is not afraid to work people, but Punk might be thinking this is working. If Punk lied about something, it's not going to change my opinion of what happened at all. And I'm a guy who calls it down the middle. I'm not a sycophant for either one. And you and I have told our opinion ad nauseum on this show. So for me, this is a waste of time. It's a carny bullshit to get a quick ratings pop. You're not going to change anyone's mind. It just looks like, for me, it's immature, stupid high school bullshit that they keep on doing over and over, proving that their EVP should be nowhere near the name of Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. Period. I think this is going to be a disaster, and if it doesn't do everything that they hope it to do, it's going to be an embarrassment. And people like Edge and people like Bryan Danielson, where's your voices during this? I mean, holy shit! Are you proud to be on this company doing stupid shit like this? Now, my last thing, and then I'll let you go and roll with it. Vince McMahon did something similar after he had to fire Bret Hart, and so he told his side of the story after Bret clearly got his side of the story out a lot more. And Vince McMahon did something similar. there is that comparison I will draw. But this shit didn't happen. Vince McMahon went on television the next fucking night.
Yep.
These guys stayed quiet and handled it like little tiny bitches. And the only thing that they did is go back to their little friend Meltzer and their little friend Alvarez and, hey, this is what's really going on. Or maybe, who knows, maybe Brandon Cutler, who's really close to those guys, are the ones pushing that information along.
Yep.
But you guys should have not in the beginning, have not in the middle, and certainly not right now showing any kind of proper leadership. And Tony, again, dude, you need to take control of this ship. Go hire Scott D'Amore and have him show you how to run a fucking wrestling company. Your view, Vladi.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to yours, man. Like when I heard of this, at first I'm like, this, is it April Fool's Day now? It's actually, it seems legitimate. They announced this on the show, and on this show, going to be this on Dynamite. You have a person by the last name of Rhodes competing for the world title against a Samoan guy. Ironically enough,
I don't think that's a big deal, but I get what you're saying. I actually made that joke today, and I might as well have made fun of someone's mother. An AEW fan ripped me a new one.
But I mean, they don't see the correlation between Cody Rhodes just winning, and then all of a sudden Dustin Rhodes has a world title match. I mean, I thought they were going by records and stuff like that, right? I mean, they're biting
see, that's
off.
the thing. They go by records in terms of big matches that are already what have you. There's still, and even in boxing, you don't always have the number one contender against the champion. So I think people think you're being a little bit.
Nevertheless, even without the records, the fact that your next show after WrestleMania, where your former EVP by the name of Cody Rhodes won the world title from Roman Reigns, creating a new era in your biggest competitor, that you have his brother who's on your payroll going against Samoa Joe. I mean, it's just using the Rhodes name, trying to this is something and again, it's biting off of Cody, who's currently at WWE. And then the other big moment that you're looking to push is involving CM Punk, who's also at WWE, who was also a former employee of yours. And you're basically basing the structure of your television show on people that aren't even there in some ways, especially this Punk thing. Okay. Now, as you mentioned, you painted it beautifully. They're the heels. They're going into this next pay-per-view, which is what, Dynasty, I believe it's called.
Dynasty.
They're going against FTR for the world title here. So there is a connection between Punk and FTR, of course. Those guys are friends. And you have a situation here where they're sort of alluding to, how can I put this? They have footage, and it's Jack Perry and CM Punk related. But what exactly are they able to show? Are they even able to say his name on the air? This is where they sort of paint themselves in a corner. And truthfully, getting to something else you mentioned, the time they should have showed this footage was when Tony Khan mentioned he was afraid for his life. They should have. He started the show off with this. I'm sorry, but this is what we had to deal with. He was totally out of his mind. He became unhinged. And you and I talked about it after that happened. And I actually said to you, I go, did he threaten his life? Like, did he just flip and look to kill him? Because the way Tony Khan presented us. Now we heard what Punk mentioned on HELWANI's podcast. Does this all line up? But they're not even showing you that aspect of it, whatever scared Tony. It's just what happened between Jungle Jerkoff and CM Punk here. And if it's anywhere, if it's like, how can I put this? If it's even 50% true, you just wasted my time. And what was this for, other than a ratings grab? Timing's of the essence and everything. And the fact that they're doing this as a reaction to Punk sitting down with HELWANI and having many, many views and people getting, absorbing his side of the story, it irked these guys, man. Tony Khan, not a fan of HELWANI to begin with, and he's probably hurt that his friend CM Punk went and spoke of him in such an honest way. There's probably a pretty bitter truth pill for Tony Khan to swallow. And then he has his little EVPs who are making more money than any other tag team in history off of him, but haven't really done much previous to this. And now, we're going to go and do this video thing. Listen, you were a big fan of BTE. I hope it's nothing like that in terms of whatever route they're going with this. And my feeling is this is probably more tied to them going against FTR than anything to do with like Punk, if I had to guess. So we'll see what happens, but it's not a good look overall. I don't see what they have to gain with it. He's not coming back. Like, that's it. It's over. So, like, what's the point of this? They had their chance to work with him and work through this. Not done.
The children. They're like fucking children that never grew up. These guys aren't men. They're kids.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless them. Look, I always give them all the credit in the world for creating AEW. Cody, Kenny, the Bucks, Tony, and everybody else that were part of the genesis of this company, because it's changed the business better than ever. And yeah, it inspired WWE to shape up and ship out a particular old pervert who we already mentioned today.
Yeah.
So AEW is great, and we want it to continue. We want it to succeed, but doing things like this is not going to help you. This reeks of WCW. It almost like a Vince Russo thing. How off the wall this is, and how reactive. I thought that myself.
Yep.
This is carny bullshit. This is Vince Russo carny bullshit.
Yep.
This is Vince Russo calling out Hulk Hogan in a shoot interview on a pay-per-view. Carny bullshit.
Yep.
And it is embarrassing for legends who are in this company right now. There are people who are legends in this company.
Yep.
Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Jon Moxley, Samoa Joe, Edge, Christian. And then guys like Wardlow and guys that maybe he's a bad example because of whatever, but there's so many people who've been in the business for over a decade that are the heart and soul of AEW. People like Eddie Kingston, whether you want to like him or not.
Yeah. It's
embarrassing for each and every one of these guys because they know how childish and stupid the Bucks are being. They know how idiotic this is. So if it's real, if it's a real video, how are you going to turn it into a thing with FTR? And how is FTR going to still be the big-time babyface team and these guys going to be the scumbags if they're the ones carrying the AEW flag and defending it from CM Punk, who is now doing exactly what he did with WWE, seemingly, and take every single solitary opportunity to try to bring down AEW. The problem is AEW is a lot weaker than WWE ever was. CM Punk wasn't just another spoke in the wheel in AEW. He was a straw that stirred the whole drink. In WWE, he was. And they left, and other than people chanting and taking over a couple shows, WWE kept on with business as usual, and they kept on making memories, and they kept on having major things happen. They kept on having Roman do what he did, and Daniel Bryan have his big WrestleMania 30 moment, and The Undertaker losing his streak, the rise of Seth Rollins, the Shield becoming the legends that they are. So WWE just kept on going. This is something where AEW still refuses just to fucking move on. And now you have a guy like CM Punk who have the people behind him, the WWE universe behind him, which is a lot louder and a lot more vocal than the AEW. I mean, not more vocal, because the AEW gatekeepers, look out. But Punk has buried the company, and they now are just reacting, looking like children, like immature, spoiled little bitches. Hopefully it's not that, but I can't see how this can go good and how this will be a good thing. We'll see what happens, but I am very skeptical of the reasoning, the timing, and what the result is going to bring for AEW. And this could be a disaster, and I have a feeling it's going to be.
Yeah, and they sort of prefaced it too, like what they were coming down to the ring against best friends, and I think Matthew Jackson said something like, "Hey, Scapegoat, good work," or "I like your work." And it's like, okay, so like, again, inside jokes, sort of alluding to what Punk was, again, it's playing off of what Punk did, and trying to go tit for tat. And it's like, honestly, CM Punk is playing chess to their checkers. And I'm just being frank with you, man. Like, and these guys are so immature; they just don't know how to deal with this. The best thing they could do is just ignore him, move on with your life. You didn't want to work with him in the first place. Go and put on the best show possible. Create some storylines that people give a shit about. And you know what? Like, you have our attention. Like, how do you grow this audience and go and become more competitive? It's up to them.
Yeah, it's very, very. I just don't know why this would be a thing who even thought about doing it. Like, a lot of us are just over it. We don't give a fuck anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
You should have done it when you had a chance. Now it's just like, I will disagree with one thing. I don't think CM Punk is playing chess at all. I think he's just trying to burn AEW every chance he gets, because that's what he did when he left WWE. That's who Punk is. He can't, as much as you might want to love him and revere him, when he gets asked questions, he wants to be honest. He is visceral and he is deadly with his comments. And if he wants to try to burn you down, he's going to do it every chance he gets. And he did it against WWE. It's going to have a lot more impact, clearly, because instead of just taking the high road like WWE did literally every single solitary time, they're playing, and maybe you are right. Maybe it is. CM Punk makes being an immature little baby a lot cooler looking than what they do. They look like literally children crying, where CM Punk just looks like a dude with his chip on his shoulder and wants to burn anything down that he disagrees with. But again, what's the result? The result is no one's going to have their mind changed. And it's a carny bullshit move.
Yeah, and again, the irony is they could have worked this out and made his life hell by basically saying, yeah, you know what, we agree, let's do a program. You want to make money? What's your ideas? How do we capitalize on this? But no, it went the completely different way. And it's amazing to me that they didn't have that whole 3-month clause in there and everything, like, non-compete. It just shows me that Tony was so head over heels with this guy that he was willing to even bypass that part.
Tony's the biggest disaster of anyone here. The Bucks are just the Bucks. Tony's got to be a stronger leader. It's just that simple. Yeah. I don't know and I don't know what kind of TV deal they're even going to remotely think of getting. If they're literally drawing consistently under 800,000 every single week now.
Yeah.
What kind of money do you think you're getting? And the AEW gatekeepers, the tribalist ones,
yeah,
they're in this fantasy land where everything's going to be A-okay. We can pay several wrestlers millions of dollars a year and still only bring in 1,500 people every show. And, but look what we did it all in last year. Yeah, it could have been one of the beginnings of the end of your company if this CM Punk thing plays out in a continuous disastrous way.
That day will be marked in history for sure. If it goes the other way. So
AEW fans, those optimists that think everything's going to be okay, you guys are in for a real rude awakening. And stop yelling and cursing off people like Vladi and I who love the product and want the show to be better, but bashing us and calling us E-drones because we point out some constructive, critical things. That's what we do. We're a wrestling podcast. We were critical of WrestleMania on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we call it down the middle. And if you go back to our podcast 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, we're saying the exact same thing about WWE that we say about AEW in terms of their booking and how much better WWE needs to be more like AEW. So we call it down the middle every single step of the way. But right now, the product, the WWE product, is better than the AEW product in terms of story and in terms of production, in terms of every other aspect, with the exception of maybe your very best match in AEW. I would probably take over the very best match in WWE. I would take Ospreay Okada or Ospreay Omega over any duo in WWE at this point. That's the only part. But you can't say that top to bottom in AEW because they have a lot of green wrestlers who botch on a weekly basis on their television show. So it's not like they have all great wrestling. No, you don't. No. In fact, CM Punk was a big contributor to the botch fest in AEW. Good job, Punk.
Broken foot, etc., etc. Yeah, I mean, tried and true, right?
Slipping off of ropes, slipping when he's trying to give a buckshot lariat twice in a row, by the way. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Even though I guess he was out for like 9 months with the first tricep tear because the EVP he did it with the EVPs. If that's true, that's crazy, but I digress.
Well, just why there's an NDA there.
That's incredible, folks. It's incredible. Crazy times in pro wrestling, Vladdy. What else do we got? Anything else you want to get off your chest? This has been a great episode. The energy was perfect. Hit all the big topics. We were beautifully poignant in our takes. Wow, this was a great show.
Yeah, I think we covered all bases, and the reaction show to Dynamite this week will probably be pretty interesting. I can only imagine what they're going to do. I mean, and the other thing is too. Did you read into like the way that Alvarez and Meltzer sort of reported it? Like I didn't get a warm and fuzzy vibe. Like, we got the upper hand. Like, wait till you see this. It's almost like, yeah, they're going to do this thing.
No, they don't. They sound like it's stupid and childish as well.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like,
Meltzer's questioning,
man.
And Meltzer's questioning how this helps the current booking of your your top heel tag team against your top babyface tag team.
Yeah, which is a valid point, and he's the ultimate AEW apologist.
Well, he's more of a New Japan apologist, but I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think this match would have been a lot better if it was in the Tokyo Dome. I don't know. I heard that CM Punk has crusted scabies. That's just what I heard. I can't tell you where I heard it from, and I don't know that to be the case. I'm not sure. I'm not saying I know this, but that's what I heard. And every other dirt sheet reports like it's true. That's how Meltzer works. But he's been critical of Tony Khan very often. I think he gets a bad rap. A little, and look,
especially of late, he's been a little bit more like throwing some shade there. Yeah, Tony didn't listen to me on this. Like, what? Like, how's he part of the creative process here? Like, shouldn't he just be putting stars against matches? Like, what the hell is this?
Fuck Dave Meltzer, by the way. I like how The Undertaker made fun of him. I can't believe I just mentioned his name. I have to edit it out. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, when I saw that quote, I just started laughing. I'm like, yeah, that's. I could sense his frustration too. I mean, like, just how popular this guy is, and how much money he makes, and he's got an absolute stranglehold of influence on AEW, the second biggest company. And like you and I have mentioned, we want them to be a viable company. I mean, listen, it would take a while to even approach WWE at this point.
They're never going to.
Right.
Never.
But they're not even in the right direction.
Oh. But again, the AEW sycophant fan who is the what do you want to call them, internet wrestling marks or whatever you want to use the word. We're talking about the kind of AEW fans that when Cody Rhodes was cutting his final promo in AEW, you were chanting "shut the fuck up" to him.
Yeah.
While he was cutting an impassioned promo about possibly leaving a company that, by the way, wouldn't have been in existence without him. And you're yelling, "Shut the fuck up" to him. Okay? It's those guys. Those guys that now said, fuck CM Punk, we don't need him, get rid of him. And then you don't think about the repercussions and you think everything's going to be A-okay. There aren't enough of you to keep this company going. You need more people to watch the product you love so much. You are not enough.
Yeah.
And all you are going to do is turn this AEW into Ring of Honor Part 2. And you're going to be, and if they don't get a good television deal, they're going to be on a secondary cable station getting about 250 to 300,000 people for a Dynamite. And then you are going to be the only ones happy and screaming, "Yay, we got rid of all the other fans, yay." And you know what? Every star that makes it a special, every person that's a bona fide star in your company, they're not going to be able to get paid. and they're going to go elsewhere, and they might go to WWE. And you're going to act like, well, we don't need them. Fuck Malachi Black. Fuck Miro. We don't need these people. Yeah, you do. Daniel Garcia is never going to be a top guy in a major company. Never. And if you think he's on the way and he should be a next world champion or a world champion the next couple of years, you are part of the problem. And you are going to be the reason you're going to be one of 250,000 people watching the fucking company in 2 years. You are as big of a problem as Tony Khan and his inability to lead, because he is catering to you. And you think everything's going to be okay. And look, if Tony can continue to sustain tens of millions of dollars of loss a year, okay, I'm okay with it. But if it's not on a television show and he can't pay certain people anymore and your stars are starting to go and the only people that are left there is Jericho and a couple of maybe Edge or Adam Copeland and then a bunch of young guys who suck, but you love for some stupid reason, then no one's going to give a shit about your product.
Yep.
So that's the reality with all of it.
Yeah, and to add to your point, it's not just the ratings; it's also the house. People actually going to the live audience and being part of like Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, and it just hasn't been the fact of late. Like you look, even when Edge did that impassioned speech after Punk had his interview. I mean, it was like a quarter full, basically almost showing as if like Punk said the right thing. Like, if you want to go and have 5-star matches and do it in front of a house that's only 25% full, that's the place.
Yeah, we're not in the same. Yeah, he said, what was the exact quote? It was a great quote. Probably the quote of the whole podcast, to be honest with you. If you rather get some goof to give you a 5-star match and wrestle in front of a quarter-filled building, then you and I are not in the same business.
Right.
And these AEW sycophants, they treat people like you and I like we're the biggest douchebags on the face of the planet. Let me tell you something, a lot of you. I know 10 times more about AEW than 95% of you. You can count on one hand how many times I've missed a Dynamite, and you can count on one hand how many times I didn't buy a pay-per-view. So don't give me this shit like you're a better AEW fan than me. You're not. You don't know shit compared to me. I've been watching the Elite since 2015, 2016. I saw the entire thing happen. I have been there. Die hard for these people. So don't tell me you're a better fan and you love AEW more. No, you just don't think for yourself, and you're in this fantasy land like everything's going to be okay. Vladi Dottie, we know our shit about AEW, and for these AEW fans to think that they're better than us because we dare criticize the company, get the frick out of here. You guys are clown shoes. I don't know how much I'm going to leave that on there. Not going to lie to you, but Sean Cottrell.
Right.
What member of our group, by the way, Sean Cottrell. Every single chance he gets, he likes to poke the bear about how AEW is better than WWE. And it's like, homie, you got to just... This isn't the time for that kind of shit. It really isn't. Because all you're doing is annoying people and you're embarrassing yourself. And the thing is, I've talked to him privately. He knows he's all bullshit. He's just doing it to poke the bear. He's just doing it to piss people off. And he gets called an idiot by 100 people per thread. Like, what are you bringing to the world in that situation? Stop the tribalistic shit. This is the greatest time in pro wrestling history. Just shut the fuck up and watch. And if you like AEW, great. If you like WWE, great. WWE, great. If you like them all, great. But stop with the tribalistic shit. You're boring everybody, and all you're doing is making the world a shittier place. Be better.
Yeah, he should really consider where he's putting his energy to. So, absolutely right.
Sorry. Took a lot out of me, Vladi.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's like a little bit of like therapy at times where you need to readjust in terms of like your fandom and understand that just because you're surrounded by idiots, it doesn't necessarily make you an idiot.
I don't know. That AEW Dynamite group, I feel a little weird sometimes. Actually, I like the group overall. Met a lot of great people. A lot of our people that started following our page are from there. So there's so many great wrestling fans, and 80% of wrestling fans are probably great, but the loud ones and the toxic ones are the ones that are just, you suck. You guys suck. You guys are fucking terrible. And by the way, WWE fans can be just as bad at times. So this isn't just this is just wrestling fans in general, not just AEW or WWE?
I think the AEW fans, like in that specific group, man, they're a bit more aggressive, vicious. Like basically, you just go like Jericho, for instance. You and I have discussed this. God forbid you have a dissenting opinion on that man's greatness. Which again, he's a Hall of Famer, one of my all-time favorites. But in recent years, he has been nothing but a drag on that television show.
Succubus.
Yeah. And I say this as a fan. Like, give somebody else a shot. Is what I'm saying.
And people, and because we were critical of that, you had some of these people tracking our personal pages where we put pictures of our family, throwing insults. And by the way, I don't care if you're throwing any insults at me. More reaction, the better. You want to throw insults at me, you go right ahead. I don't give a shit, but don't start messing with my family. Come on. Sickos.
It's ridiculous.
But women, if you have foot pics you want to send me, that'd be fine too.
Yeah, he's totally cool with foot pics.
Yeah.
And if there's any other scumbags that want to go and basically try to go and insult you, we'll just tear you apart limb from limb.
But yeah, I don't know. I just had to get that out with some of the things that I see. And Sean Control's not a bad guy. He just, I think he's 11. So
he's 11 years old? Okay.
No, he's an adult, but I make that joke about that's when he and I would bar back and forth. I never called him an idiot. I never was degrading to him because again, I'm trying not to do that because I used to do that a lot. But you should see some of what the people are calling him. Idiot Mark. And then everyone's bringing up how WWE business has never been this good. And AEW business is seemingly on a very low, one of the lowest times of their time together. So, it is what it is, but yeah, a lot of crazy things happen in this world of professional wrestling, folks. And it's been a great ride. And Vladi Dottie, our subscribers on YouTube has gone up. We're now at 713. Actually, 714. I do apologize. We're at 714 at the moment.
I actually looked. We're actually up to 716.
716. We want to thank each and every one of you new subscribers. Thank you so very much. And look, bring yourself to bring some conversation to the table. Join us. You can comment here on our videos. Certainly, you can go to YouTube on our YouTube group, and we will interact. We'll be over there interacting with you, talking about this wonderful world of professional wrestling. It's Vladi Dottie. I was thinking about this the other day, and this will be my last point of the show. Yeah. I don't know what medium of entertainment, movies, books, radio, satellite radio, any kind of entertainment form. Professional wrestling is the only one that you can make a strong argument of traditional ways. I'm not talking about like digital graphic design and all that, but your traditional kind of art. Professional wrestling is the only one that you can make a bona fide statement that this could be the greatest time in professional wrestling history. It's not the greatest time for movies, not the greatest time for music, not the greatest time for books, not the greatest time for a lot of these things. Professional wrestling could arguably be at its very best than ever. And I know a lot of people are still waxing philosophical about the Attitude Era, but a lot more people, and I'm not saying I started this trend because the video only had like 90 views, but I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. This era could be better than the Attitude Era, and now a lot of people are starting to suggest that, and we'll see what happens. But, it's great job by WWE, WrestleMania, AEW. Just do the best you can, and that's all I got. This has been a great episode, Vladi. I had a great time.
Yeah, definitely, man. It was on point.
Well, if that's all we got for you, we want to thank you guys. Hey, subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or anywhere you find your podcast, please give us a follow. We would love it. Tell us what you're thinking. Join us on Facebook, High Spots and Cheap Pops, the group High Spots and Cheap Pops Professional Wrestling fan page. And you can follow me, High Popper, on the X or Twitter, or whatever they're calling it these days. I don't typically go on there too often, but I do post some things from time to time. And that's all we got for you. So for Vladi Dottie, this is Silicone Steve Valley, and thank you for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops. Keep an eye out. We might be dropping a bonus episode depending on what happens tomorrow night. Maybe we get together Thursday night, Vladi, and discuss the Young Bucks segment. And there'll be a moment in the valley spending some time heavily looking at the construction and conquering and the conqueror that is the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, and how did the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes come to power? And we'll certainly discuss a lot of his AEW and Ring of Honor and New Japan. So for Vladi Dot, this is Silicon Steve Valley. Thank you for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops. Here endeth the lesson.